Hello and welcome to No Prize Podcast 2022 edition. And I apologize for not having a new episode a couple of weeks ago, but my house was dealing with COVID, so
Oh
we
shit.
had to take a couple of weeks off. So, what is up, Lucas? Nice to see you after a few weeks.
Man, we've got a lot of stuff to get to and talk to. 2 weeks is a lot, man, and the stuff is just building up, man. But it is building up into the perfect storm, which you just happen to be in.
I am
Jesus,
sitting
man.
through that northeast blizzard today, and I'm hoping we don't lose power during the podcast because we are supposed to be blowing around at 80 miles an hour winds and 3 feet of snow. So I can't think of anything I'd rather be doing than talking to you and talking about Marvel Comics.
Well, just remember you get the young buck. Make sure he shovels the snow because no, we can't just be shoveling snow like we used to. No,
Hey, I am under doctor's orders to not shovel snow
there
anymore.
you go.
So I have, they should give me like a card or something so I could be like, I'm sorry, I can't shovel snow.
Mhm. That's what it's
But
all about, man. Freaking, let the young ones figure out how hard it is. Man.
Well, you
Figure out
know
what
what?
real cold is.
I have a snowblower, so I can still walk behind that thing. Let it do all the work. So I still do most of the driveway, but when it comes to shoveling the vehicles out, it's all the kids.
Yeah,
So
man. If I would have been smarter and I would have put the blankets on the windows, I wouldn't have to take that off. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We are here to talk about Marvel properties, Marvel
yeah,
stuff. How is Disney doing? And so, for those that don't know, we're in the middle of a weird price correction right now. Um, and it has worked on Disney. They were formerly 165 just a year ago, and that was after being at 85. They rebounded to 165. Now they're down to like the 130s, right?
are we talking about stock prices right now?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and 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 because I want to lean into how that affects what we're going to talk about. The
So hey,
it,
hey,
it's go
before you get any further, how
ahead.
how um how does Marvel go down or the MCU stock price go down when Spider-Man No Way Home is still the number one movie at the box office, making like
Right.
a bazillion dollars?
Yes, because
So
of price sharing, right? Because of revenue sharing. So first, they've got to share a lot of that revenue with Sony, and then a lot of their bulk revenue should have come from like the Disney parks and the cruises. Well, because of cruises that were knocked off because of the reemergence of the new variant of Omicron variant, whatever you want to call it, and people kind of staying away from the parks. Like but I've seen the TikToks. People are still showing up, but they're not spending as much money, right? Because okay, I can spend money to get down there, but once I get down there,
you can't
you
do
know,
anything.
yeah, I can't do
Yeah.
anything. I'm not going to spend. I'm bringing my little burrito, my anchalupa, through the gate. I'm sticking that in. I am not eating at your restaurant, sir. And I know for a fact that's where a lot they got a lot of their money from. It's from the secondary sales of food and
Oh, of
and
course, yeah.
and the little hats and everything. There's a lot of people just running around like, hey, I am not spending more money on here. Second is I think they closed something like 40 stores, Disney stores all across the nation. That's another thing that people were raw on, and the fact that hey, because people had to prioritize where their funds are going. One of the first things that they shut down was their Disney Plus subscriptions. So that was another thing that was going into, and that's what a lot of the people who write the credit scores for Disney and everything. They say, yeah, we got that, we got this, we understand this, and we understand that other thing. But the thing that they were most concerned was the subscribers. Now here's the deal. You would think, okay, well, No Way Home, right? Even if they didn't get a lot of revenue out of No Way Home, once it gets on the Disney Plus, people are going to want to see that and that, this, that, and the other thing.
But is Spider-Man on Disney Plus?
So it turns out that Netflix won a big contract to distribute Sony pictures, and we're talking about all the Spider-Man stuff, Ghostbusters. I can't think of all the stuff at the top of my head. So for the first 8 months or so, Sony has the first rights to stream all that stuff, and then eventually Disney will get it,
Hmm.
right? But Netflix gets that first, and that's huge because right now we're in Olympia, right? Where maybe 2 to 3 months after it comes out in the theaters, it's gonna I get to watch it at home. You know, it shocked me how fast Shang-Chi and Eternals freaking made
Yeah,
it, right? And you would have thought, okay, well, in like 2 or 3 months, I'm gonna get freaking No Way Home, and I can watch it over and over and over. No, it's going to Netflix. Well, I mean, I've got Netflix too, but that is amazing to me that you just here's another thing that they're missing out, right? my my wife, she was like she understood what was going on, but she forgot because she hadn't watched a lot of the Spider-Man movies in a while. So just yesterday, she was trying to watch Spider-Man number 3.
hmm,
Right, she was watching it on Hulu, and it was pissing her off because there was a whole bunch of commercials. We
right.
have a no commercial subscription.
Hmm. You
Yeah,
pay
for
extra for
some
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we pay extra for that. Yes, for some reason the movies that she was watching had that. And it was like, okay. I was like, well, wait a minute, baby. No, 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 no. Watch it on Disney Plus. No, it's not on Disney Plus.
Hmm.
So they've got to fix that. They've got to fix that. Like,
For
hey,
sure.
if I'm subscribing to your stuff, everything, everything, everything has got to be on Disney Plus.
Hmm.
Right? No, if you don't want to save money, get up. I don't need National Geographic. I don't need don't go on the Simpsons on there.
The life
Uh,
of Jeff Goldblum.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I will tell you what was on Disney Plus. The life or the Star Wars, the Book of Boba Fett was on there.
Oh yeah.
So are you caught up? And if you are, what did you think?
I am caught up, and I have to tell you, um, I'm underwhelmed by the show so far. With the last episode, though, um, the last episode was really, really good, with the exception that it didn't really fit in the overall story. It seemed like 2 minutes at the end were the tie-in to the Book of Boba Fett show, but it was kind of like the first episode of season 3 of Mandalorian. Didn't you feel like that?
Man, it felt no. You know what it felt like to me? It felt like the fourth or fifth season of Star Wars, the Rebels, right? So there's an animation cartoon out there where it talks about the Clone War, right, and everything. And at one point they turn to they turn to talk about the Ebony Blade, right?
Yeah.
That's in the animation. Now in this they talked about the Ebony Blade, so thank God I had watched that, so that made this particular episode even more endearing to me. Because like, oh, okay, that's not just a thing. Now it's actually into the freaking lore. So I, l- look, I love this episode, and I might actually have to go back and watch that old episode and see if there's anything I missed, man. But a lot of good stuff, interesting stuff.
So the one thing that I liked about Book of Boba Fett is you get the first look at an actual Marvel spin-off character that was created for the Marvel comics in Black Chrysanthemum, and
Mm,
I
yes.
thought he looked fantastic. I thought he was great. They used him properly. I want to see what they do in the last few episodes, but it seems to me like Boba Fett. He's just not that bounty hunter that everybody saw in Empire and Jedi for 2 seconds. And I know I'm like the 40-year-old, well, the 40-year-old movie, but I'm 50 now.
Yeah.
Um, but my idea of what Boba Fett, who and what he should be, the character that Darth Vader told him not to disintegrate anybody. you know,
Yeah.
he's kind of like a good guy now, and I could see like where his motivations or his thought processes would change after being digested by the Sarlacc and being rescued by the Sand People, and they actually kind of go through like his changing character, but I think. for a character that has to be the protagonist of his own TV show, you can't have like you could never have like a Darth Vader show where he just walks around and kills Padawans all day. You know,
Yeah.
you could never have something like that. So I enjoy this. I actually thought when the Mandalorian showed up, I knew he was going to show up after the end of the last episode where Fennec said she was going to buy people with
Uh,
and then they
yeah.
played the Mandalorian music at the end, and I was like, oh, okay, so Mandalorian's coming back. I actually wanted to see some of the other bounty hunters that maybe we haven't seen yet, right? Like
Sure.
like Dengar or Bosk. We've already seen a bunch of Trandoshans in the show. They could do Bosk really good, you know. I'd really love to see some of those characters, and who knows, maybe we'll get some by the end. There might be a surprise or two, but for the most part, I think this show is a bit slower than the first couple of seasons of Mandalorian. I'm not as invested in it. Um,
Sure.
and the only episode that I thought was fantastic was the one Robert Rodriguez didn't direct. It was the one that Bryce Dallas Howard directed, and it was an offshoot of the Mandalorian. So, what were
Mm.
your thoughts on the show? Because I mean, I like it. It's filling that Star Wars void for me right now.
It is a background show, right? Where I could throw it on, and I can just like listen to what's going on, and just and I'm talking about the start, right? Because it was like, hey, there wasn't that much dialogue that was that important. You just turn every once in a while, you see him messing around with some Jawas or whatever freaking characters, turn back. You all of a sudden you hear some growling. You say, "Oh crap, he's messing around with Black Crimson." All right, that's pretty fucking cool. Then you freaking go back to whatever you're freaking doing. Now, once again, the last episode got a little bit more, with a little bit more intrigue about what's going on, the inner workings of the Mandalorians. And it is what is needed, right? Because, like you said, there's a definite split in between the guy he was, what he represented, right? A badass assassin who was ruled over by Darth Vader. That's how bad, because because people got to understand that there's several levels of evil, and your level of evil is defined by who works for you and who goes out and does your freaking dirt, right?
Mm,
So Boba Fett defined the dirt for Darth Vader, right? So this is the trend that I think a lot of people don't haven't liked about Star Wars, the whole Star Wars franchise over the last few years, is that now they kind of broke apart what and kind of dissected what was going on with Darth Vader. Because now we're in his headspace. We understand why he was a bad guy, right? We understand why he killed this and that and other thing. He lost Padme and the twins and everything. Um, even in the comic books, they're doing the same thing. Like, okay, he now knows that Luke Skywalker is alive, but now he's pissed off because there's a whole bunch of people that hit him. Now he's out to kill everybody that freaking knew, right?
mm,
So let's take this back to Bubba Fett. Bubba Fett was a badass that freaking he had one freaking code that was the Mandalorian freaking or yeah, the Mandalorian code. And he was just all about them credits, just getting freaking credits, right? Now it's like, okay, ever since he freaking came out the freaking swamp, the freaking got the freaking thing's mouth, and he's on some other thing, this, that, and other thing, right? The thing of disrespect that made me turn off was when he goes into the city to talk to the young folk, right? Like, hey, you're supposed to pay your rent, you're supposed to do this and everything, and they told him to hit the road, you know, and he just says, "Oh no, I'm gonna pay you." Like, no, dude, you got to shoot at least one. Shoot at least one of them little MFers, to show them, business. Then we can negotiate about what's this, that, and the other thing, right? He's like, hey, because he's like, hey, who are you? Blah blah blah, and they're like, oh, well, I'm Bubba Fett, and they're like, we know. And then they freaking shrug him off, and they're like, no, no, that's not the. You got you when you roll up like this. That's the way of the hood, man. You got to freaking pop off a couple of shots first, then you freaking
mm-hmm.
get negotiations. That's just the way it goes. That's the way of war, man. So I was I was uh I was feeling. most of it, except for the way it is now with him and his crew. I'm not like because and it's not just that young crew. He's been rolling up to a whole bunch of these negotiations and freaking and these talks, and
Right.
he's not willing to do the dirt that makes you respect him, right? He was a muscle, right? That's why Jawa hired him to do a whole bunch of stuff, and he would go up and freaking kidnap somebody or grab somebody. But now you gotta shoot somebody in the foot. you know, put some holes in their freaking rooftop, something to
Yeah,
get them to respect you.
he's not supposed to be the great negotiator.
Yeah.
So,
So
so tell me something. Are they missing the boat by not incorporating the Crimson Dawn into the show?
absolutely, absolutely. You've got a whole book right out right now dedicated to Crimson Rain, man. You got to somehow integrate those elements into this, and they're not doing it. Right, and I understand that they go away and they die and or something or another thing at some point. But come on, man, freaking bring them up, talk about them, something, do something,
Yeah,
make them more important.
I'd like to find out where they stand, like in this post Jedi universe, and also, I'd like to see some other characters. We see Black Chrysanthemum. That opens the door for a lot of the other Marvel characters like Doctor Aphra. I think Doctor Aphra would be fantastic in this DC and this
They
Disney Star
they
Wars universe.
keep they know that speculators are just
Oh yeah,
waiting for the man. One of the books I got, like from her first appearance, like that 125. That's almost a $1,000 book right now.
really?
Yeah, for nine
So,
eight.
but I mean,
Yeah.
that's the character waiting in the wings, right? I mean, out of all the Star Wars characters running around in the Marvel universe right now, Dr. Aphra is the one I think everybody wants to see.
Yes.
Um, and then, do they debut her in her own show? Because I mean, I've heard rumors about the show for years now. Um, but do they debut her in her own show, or does she show up in a show like Boba Fett? Or does
I
she
think
show up in Mandalorian season 3? Because
yeah,
Mandalorian,
yeah. That's what you do. You show her up at the end of like season 3 as her like transporting Grogu off to somewhere else,
yeah,
and then you say, hey, Doctor Aphra is going to have her own show. Would you like to know more about it? Click here.
I think that's what season 3 is going to need, right? Because now that we've had the first 2 seasons and they've wrapped up the whole Grogu storyline, um, they need to introduce that. So that's where I kind of think that you need to introduce Crimson Reign and have them be the major bad guys or the major plot
Right.
line in this. And also Dr. Aphra. Introduce those. That'll give you at least 2 more spin-off shows, right? At
Right.
least.
Well, so here's the deal though. They might be shy because of what happened with Han Solo, right? Because that was their introduction, right?
Uh,
Now everybody was like, okay, well, Crimson Rain, and then Han Solo. I don't want to say it sucked,
oh, I don't think it sucked at all.
but it didn't trigger the excitement at the people watching it. It didn't trigger the excitement that it should.
So
It
yeah,
was it was
I
better than the prelude episodes, right?
hmm
But it didn't trigger excitement. Even though there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, it didn't trigger excitement. I think because probably because of too much explanation about Han Solo, but no,
yeah.
we'll see.
Well, you know what? I think they're not going to give Han Solo a sequel movie. They could give him a season on Disney Plus. I would re-up my subscription for eternity if they bring a Han Solo into Disney Plus, give him his own show,
Mm,
bring back all the actors, bring back what's his name as Lando, bring back Chewbacca. That way you have that kind of tie-in to the original movies. Plus, that's where you can do a bunch of this stuff. Like don't tell me Han Solo wouldn't get along with like a Dr. Aphra or something like those questionable morality characters.
So
Um,
true, so
and
true,
it would just be perfect.
so true,
And
man. That's
having
probably what they should have did instead of a movie. They probably should have did a TV series for Han Solo, but I don't think they did. I don't remember, but I don't. They didn't even have Disney Plus back then, so.
no, they
But
didn't,
they probably should have had a Han Solo series.
but it's
Um,
perfect right now because I mean, what are we 3 or 4 years out from the Han Solo movie, right? Maybe 5 or 6 years out. Jesus, from the Han Solo movie, that's died down where everybody was had Star Wars fatigue, right? That's why that
right.
movie didn't do so well. Um, I mean, I thought the movie was what it was, right? I mean, it was no one was gonna buy into a younger Han Solo that's not played by Harrison Ford because Harrison Ford owns that character. But seeing, you know, now that we're 5 or 6 years out, they're used to it by now. If whoever hasn't seen it, but I would love to see a Disney Plus show. Give us a short series like a 7 episode season one, just like Boba Fett. We're not going to see season two of Boba Fett. They're gonna just roll him
So,
right back into Mandalorian.
yeah. Hey, so did you see the Boba Fett one shot? It was like the history of Boba Fett. Did you see that?
No, is that the little the like 10-minute documentary on Disney Plus?
Yes,
No,
yes,
I,
man.
I
It's
I
it's
didn't I didn't watch it. How was it good?
amazing, man. Amazing. They went into the designs, done with the feedback from George Lucas on the designs.
Huh.
The dude's audition, and so do you know what the first appearance of Boba Fett was?
Yeah, it was in the Star Wars Christmas special back in like
Yes, that is
1977.
exactly. That is something that I did not know.
Yeah, it was in a cartoon.
So here's why that's important for my speculators, right? VHSs have become huge all of a sudden because that's just like comic books where you can slab them. You can now slab VHSs as well and get it graded. So I would highly suggest that, hey, because I forget how much that Star Wars episode one freaking or episode three joint went, but it went for a lot of money. But first appearance of Boba Fett on which is this, it even had or even on the back cover there's like a first image of him.
Hmm.
You might want to freaking pick this up. So just saying,
Oh,
man.
that yeah, and anybody that hasn't seen that Star Wars Holiday Special, it is a hot mess from beginning to end. It is just awful, terrible. Don't think that you're getting anything special. Um, I mean, the Wookiees talk in it. It's awful, awful. Um, Not to mention, look at the guest star list: B. Arthur, Diane Carroll, Jefferson Starship. Come on, but other than that, I mean, it's fun to look at now, but it is god awful. So it's one of those it's so bad it's good things. So
All right. The Star Wars talks right now. We're going to take a
yeah,
break and then we'll be back and we'll start talking some comics, man.
yeah. Let's yeah. All right, make sure to check out Crisis in the Toyverse on Undercover Capes, along with a lot of other podcasts that are really good, like definitive crusade about DC Comics. Hey, did you see? Before we get into knee deep on the comics, did you see the trailer for Moon Knight?
Yes, I did. It looks good, right? Moon Knight's a complex character, and I'm a little nervous that this could be the one. But looking from the trailer, it looks like they got a handle on it.
Yeah,
So I can't wait. I mean, do we have a release date yet? When it's actually?
March 30th,
Oh,
the end
that's
of
dope.
March.
See, they came out too early with it. Like no, like oh man,
I expected them to release it right after Boba Fett, and then we were going to get like a non-interrupted.
exactly right. But they keep
Yeah,
pushing stuff back and back. Like go
yeah.
boom, 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 boom. Right, freaking Bubba
So
Fett and a couple of movies and I don't know.
a couple of things that struck me about that trailer. Um, the he looks great. The character Moon Knight. He looks great. He looks like a mummy. He looks like more Egyptian than anything he's ever looked
Yes,
like in the comics. I think they did a great job in portraying the character. And the second thing that I think is significant is that this is the first Marvel property on Disney Plus that's going to air that is created for Disney Plus and not in the movies. So I think that this is going to be huge. So make sure that you check it out on March 30th. And this is Oscar Isaac's second go around in the Marvel universe too, because
that's it. What did he do?
he played Apocalypse in the X-Men movie.
Ah,
So you
okay.
know, luckily he was under all the makeup. So he joins. Who else does he join? Chris Evans, who played the Human Torch and Captain America. So
mm, yeah.
interesting stuff. All right, so let's jump into Black Panther number 200. It's a anniversary issue, and I'm going to let you take it away here. And why do I want to buy this book?
Look, there is a lot of stuff and stories in this book. It also this book starts off and it talks about the this whole thing with the agents of Wakanda, right? Because T'Challa has all these agents of Wakanda like all over the place. Um, and they're in certain networks. They're spying on people. They're doing this. They're just like undercover agents, just living life, right? But then all of a sudden, this entity starts killing them off. So now T'Challa is actually bringing those agents back in, and bringing them home rather than just keep letting them get killed. Is that a reason to buy this book? Absolutely not. Nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about that storyline. They should have been dropped that. Forget that. What people do care about is this particular character that I have on the left hand side. His name is Tosin. He's got these powers, kind of undefined.
I
He's
think
moving
his
stuff around. Yeah,
the
but
kind of the he's got the properties of vibranium. I think
hmm what
so.
that means, I don't know.
But,
Okay, okay. From day to day, they keep changing it. So okay, whatever. Like okay, it's just like Uru, where you get it. Your soul goes into vibranium, and is that what we're doing now? I guess so. That must be what we're doing. That's the only thing I can think
hmm,
of. So a a comic book geek culture organization out there erroneously said, "Hey, this character might be the next Miles Morales." They had no resource, they had no source on this. It wasn't Marvel saying this. They just put that out there, and then it caught fire. Right? Nobody knew who the source is that says this was going to be a big character. They just knew that somebody said it.
hmm.
In the meantime, nobody cares about nobody had cared about the Black Panther book, right? Um, so Black Panther number 3, which is the first appearance of this character, had a 1 in 25. That means that the retailers had about 25 books in there, and of course, there's no retailers out there unless you're like Midtown. They're going to buy 25. They're going to
Copies
buy
of right.
25 copies of this freaking book. But here we go. So it was the perfect storm. Like somebody heard this, and that, and the other thing. Then people were there's no just slowly freeing books out there, right? So as a result, this book is now a $200 book.
That
Raw.
just came out 5 days ago.
Yes. People are thinking that if this continues, once the 98 start the I'm talking about the slab books hit, this will be a $500 freaking book. Right. Um, but here's the caveat to that I would say. If by Black Panther number 4 they don't bring this character back and make him even more important, then all that goes out the window,
Right.
right? Um, I luckily, I had, cover my butt. No, I've got the cover A and cover B, which are I think the cover A is definitely freaking sold out because that's the nicest other one. This cover C, the one in 25, no, it's just not out there. So, what would I suggest to people who are interested? All I'm saying is go to your LCS, stop by if it's not snowing out there, and just see if it's on the shelves. If it's on the shelves for like $25, $30, go ahead and pick this up because it doesn't hurt. If if they want $200 for it, $100, don't pay it because I guarantee you, most of the speculation community is very old men and they got bad memories and they will forget this freaking book. All right. So I guarantee you the price is going to drop to acceptable levels as because look, he's in Wakanda. It's not like he lives in New York where he can just hang out with Miles and Riri and those guys. So
Well, here's a question for you about Tosin, right? So, with I guess the desperation that the MCU is probably feeling about the death of Chadwick Boseman, what we do in Black Panther 2,
mhm.
does Tosin show up? Is this a character that maybe has already been filmed to appear in Black Panther 2, and they're just introducing him in the comics as a kind of like a get ahead of it kind of thing? Because we've all read about the problems that they're having with the actress playing Cherie not getting vaccinated and causing stalls in the filming. Is this their attempt at maybe a recast and making a character that's as important as Black Panther going forward? That maybe that's the speculation. Yeah.
That would be interesting, right? Well, so that's not what they said, but that would be an interesting take on it. That's a direction that they could go. Like, hey, we got Killmonger, but he's too great of a character to make him a total wimp, right? Um, we're not solid on where we are with the Shuri actress right now, right?
Right.
So let's throw a guy in there inside of the Black Panther Part 2. He's just going to be some random guy, and then later on, after everything is shut down and set to go, we're going to say, hey, by the way, did you know that that guy was Tosin from? And then all of a sudden everybody's going to be scrambling for this book.
Right. And then this book becomes $1,000 book too.
Yes.
So let me shout out the creators on this. We have John Ridley writing, Juan Cabral with Ibrahim Mustafa artists, and Matt Miller as the color artist with letters. VC's Joe Sabino. Cover art, obviously Alex Ross. And we blame the editors, right? We blame the editors for everything. Caitlin Lindved, Alana Smith, Will Moss, and of course CB Cebulski. I'm going to uh, tell you that I enjoyed this book a bit. I kind of like the Black Panther, and I like what John Ridley's doing with the character. The one thing I'm going to shout out, and this is, I guess I'm getting a habit of shouting out all the bad stuff, but Storm is in this book.
Mm.
Black Panther goes to Mars and visits Storm, and they have a conversation in towards the end of this book. And um, I don't know if you read this uh, or remember this at all, but Storm, it doesn't sound like Storm at all. At all. Storm is supposed to sound regal, like a goddess, formal, kind of like royalty, right? You expect her to talk maybe like the queen, right? Like she is.
Right.
She's using language here that in phrases. I'm just like, she sounds like Jenny down the block, as opposed to the royalty that she's supposed to sound like. And to
Yes.
me, it threw the whole book off for me. And I was just like, oh my God. And let's, like I always say, blame the editors. The editor should have looked at that and been like, can you clean Storm up a little bit? She's supposed to sound like, she's not supposed to sound like she, you know, she's like not royalty or not a goddess.
Right.
She's like the queen of Mars, pretty much, right?
Yes.
So
Queen of Mars, diplomat of like our whole intergalactic system right now. So
yeah. So I mean, that's to me that was a little off-putting, right? It took me out of the story because most of the time when you read Storm, she reads a certain way, right?
yeah.
Like she reads different than other characters that you're reading about. And in this, she just the voice that she had in this book was not Aurora Monroe. And that's
Mm,
all I'm going to say about that. And that's the if that's the worst part of the book, then the book's okay, right?
right.
So, but it was that.
Nobody's been reading X-Men right now for Storm or reading Black Panther
No,
for Storm. So it's been a while since we've had a book where we can really listen to her. Now, I will say, the last time I really saw Storm in a capacity that I really, really liked was when Doctor Doom came to visit her on Mars and they had dinner.
right. That was a great issue, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
But
She,
she
she
but she was an ambassador, a diplomat, but she's like the very epitome of like girl power. You know what I mean?
but she's
And
but here's the thing: she's been getting girl power for forever
yeah.
since the beginning,
Hmm.
right? And she has a reason behind it. Look, she's an actual goddess. So it's not like, oh, I'm struggling to make it, and no, I'm a girl boss now. Like, no, Storm has always been the girl boss. She's been the
Yeah.
girl god. No, so
Even
she's always been there.
even when she went through her punk phase back in the 80s with the mohawk, she always carried herself with that dignity. She never became like I think like how she reads in this book. Like I just she sounded so I hate to say like street level,
Mm,
because she's always been above that, the way
right.
that they portray her. But the I think it was just the phrases that she used, the language, that slang, really kind of like it took me out of the story. So anyway, I thought this was okay. I mean, just okay though, and it should
Right.
have been better for an anniversary book, right? I mean, this was
True.
the 200th issue of Black Panther.
Yes, sir.
Um,
Hmm.
I was expecting some big stuff, but we do get a first appearance of a brand new character that they can or may not do anything with, but
Right.
we'll see. I'd like to see them bring back Mosaic. Do you remember him?
He's been around.
Where have you
He,
seen him? I haven't
I've
seen
seen
him
him
anywhere.
in. The last time I saw him was in what's that team book where they're out in space
Guardians of
with
the Galaxy.
no with the guy that's in the wheelchair.
Oh, Sword.
Yes, he was in that.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
I totally skipped by him if I saw him. That's a good conversation to have, and we won't have it on this podcast. But the how about like 10 years ago, the Inhumans were everything, and they were marginalizing the mutants, right? And that was because Marvel was having that fight with Sony at the time about the
Hmm.
X-Men and the Spider and the Fantastic Four, and the Fantastic Four disappeared. The X-Men were like not the focus at all, and they tried to build up the Inhumans to be the mutants of the Marvel universe, and everybody was a mutant, and the only Inhuman that's still running around is Ms. Marvel. They don't
Yeah.
even like even the original Inhumans you see hardly ever, you know. But that's just me.
Well, yeah, we got Miss Marvel coming. You got what's her name? The little girl.
Oh,
Moon Girl.
Moon Girl. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
Moon
not an
Girl's coming.
Inhuman though,
Yes, she is.
is she?
Hmm.
Oh, okay.
That's how she's able to like switch her brain back and forth in between her and a dinosaur.
Oh, okay. I thought she was like a mutant or something, but she's an Inhuman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
Crazy,
that's
right?
so maybe two characters then in the Marvel universe left that remembers that they got their powers from the Terrigen mists. So, Let's jump into. Oh, there we go. Mary Jane and Black Cat. So the
So
storyline, the Beyond storyline, is a mess. But this is actually
it
kind of
is.
like.
It's but you know what? It's an appropriate mess, right? Like I've always complained that there's too many Spider-Man out there right now, right? And some there's always somebody got to hand their little hand in the pie, right?
Yeah.
And they're showing the complications of having all those Spider-Man out there. Um, but this one was a little bit. It just said, "Hey, we're gonna leave that Beyond stuff over there for right now. Let's talk about the relationship between Peter and Mary Jane. Ah, no, 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 forget that. Let's talk about Mary Jane and Black Cat, right? Because for those that forgot, Peter Parker used to be a thing with Black Cat, um, and that never got resolved. I never really saw any resolution in between. No, hey, Mary Jane, did you know that your boy used to, whatever. So, uh, this is an adventure with Mary Jane and Black Cat going out to get the hood of I forget the name of the guy.
Uh, the Hood.
The hood,
That's his.
okay.
That's his name.
Yeah, get the hood for the hood. Sounds
Yeah.
like a song. Get the hood for the hood. Um, and if she doesn't, the hood is going to kill Peter. So just they go off do the all their thing and everything. But what was more interesting is the dialogue between these two. There's definitely a really nice thing to sit down and like, hey, and Black Cat freaking turns to Mary Jane. She says, hey, I'm really getting tired of this. She's like, what? Well, no, no, I'm the villain, right? And I'm the excitement, right? I'm the exciting girl
Yeah. She's the
that
bad
he
girl. The bad girl.
yeah, I'm the
Yeah.
bad girl. I'm the exciting girl that he goes to, but that's just before he eventually just ends up with the good girl.
Hmm.
And that is like of all the conversations that I really wanted to happen, that kind of epitomizes it right there of
Yeah.
how she feels. She's not they didn't go to hey I'm better than this and that and they're like hey she's like this is how I feel looking at him going off with you. And that was such a great freaking dialogue. Marvel doesn't get the dialogue correct. Good a lot,
It's
but they got it right. They got it good right there.
it's one of those character moments that you never expected to happen, but when it did happen, you were like, "Oh, that is pretty perfect." Because I mean, Peter, Mary Jane, and then Felicia. Felicia's been in Peter's life, out of Peter's life for the last 40 years. Mary Jane, and they even say this in the comic. Mary Jane was the original bad girl when Gwen Stacy was in the picture,
Mm,
and then Mary Jane through over time became the good girl, and now
mm,
you have Felicia. That's kind of was like the '80s bad girl, and and that was I thought that kind of character conversation was perfect. I enjoyed it a lot, and just kind of brought back a lot of memories from when I first started reading comics when Black Costume Spidey and Felicia were a thing, and
mm.
I I enjoyed it. That is my favorite cover probably of this year or last year. That's a great cover too.
Yeah, it's the 1 to 50 Adam Hughes.
It's a great cover.
So I haven't really checked out how it is, but I'm gonna wait till after everything dies down. And I'm just gonna start grabbing these up because yeah, that is a great freaking cover. Um, uh, get the credits. Who wrote this? Was this
I'll bring him
let's
up.
see,
Hold on a second.
written by Saladin Ahmed, interior art by C.F. Vila,
Uh, no, right. The writer's Jed McKay.
Jed McKay.
Yeah,
Really
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Damn you, Diamond! Your stuff is always jacked up. Can't go
There,
to those
so
guys
the
in reference for
so
nothing.
so the whole Beyond story is they credit everybody in the book. This so they credit Kelly Thompson, Cody Ziegler, Saladin Ahmed, Patrick Gleason and Zeb Wells. They call them the Beyond Board. So they are getting credit in the book, even though they didn't have anything to do with this. But Jed McKay is the writer, with CFE as the artist. We
Eric
got
Arciniega as the color artist. Yep,
Yep, and
gotcha.
Travis Lanham letters. And if we want to blame the editors, Lindsay Kohick, Caden McGahee, Nick Lowe, and CB Cebulski. Um, yeah, there's one perfect line in this, and I'm sure you know it too, with Felicia and Mary Jane standing over Peter's hospital bed after they defeat the Hood, and Peter wakes up and he says, "Oh, it's this dream again." I,
like, like,
that
bro,
actually got a belly laugh out of me.
it's like imagine that's your dreams, man. Because I couldn't have got away with it because my wife would have been like, "Oh, so you're dreaming of me and your ex in latex leather?" It's like,
Yeah,
okay, you
yep.
watch, okay. But yeah, man, freaking, I first issue, good issue, great freaking cover art,
Well, it's the only
good.
issue. It's a one shot. So,
Is it a one shot? Oh,
yep,
there you go.
yep. It's that. It ties into that Beyond storyline. So it's that. They had a Doctor Octopus issue a couple of weeks ago, and a few others. Those satellite books that really don't really tie into the story that much, but it's just something else for you to buy. Um,
Yeah,
Other than that, I think like I said, the Beyond storyline has been kind of a bit of a mess. You can't really take. I hate it when they take Peter off the canvas of his own book, and now you have Ben in there, but Ben's spinning off into his own book. It's just an extra Spider-Man running around that I don't think we really need. There's enough of them as it is. So
yeah. Plus we got Spider Woman, Silk.
yeah,
Ugh.
yeah. And Silk's in another limited series. They have Spider Woman's with her own book, Miles with his own book. Um, it's almost like the Green Lantern Corps. There's like a ton of Green
Yeah.
Lanterns. There's a ton of Spider-Man. And Peter's the original for me. And I do like Miles a lot. But Ben Riley is really he is a clone. So how much different can you make him before people get bored?
Yeah.
Um,
I,
I
I
know
think.
I'm
Well,
bored.
I think the intriguing thing about the book is how much damage you can let Beyond Core get away with. Right. That's really what it comes down to. Like
Right.
that's all I really want to see. I want to see them torture the heck out of them. Put them through the ringer, and then just let's either kill them or just put them away for another day.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
it.
we get another character debut next month with the Red Goblin.
Yes.
That's
Is it the
coming
Red
out.
Goblin or the Red Goblin
Red. Oh,
Queen?
the Goblin Queen. That's who it is.
Yes.
They've already done a Red Goblin.
Which is
Um,
a double entendre for something. Don't look that up on Pornhub. You'll you'll get
oh,
your mind all jacked up. So I don't think they rung that through the runger. Dear Marvel, if you're gonna come up with a name for something, always run it through Pornhub to see what comes up. Just saying. Uh,
that's a live and learn kind of thing. We'll see that. She won't get her own book. That's for sure. So, oh yeah,
uh,
let's jump into Thor. This actually was a real. I thought when we got to the end of the previous issue, I was just rolling my eyes, going, "Oh, please, they're giving Mjolnir a body."
mhm,
And that was and then of course when I'm reading this book and I remember the when Jane Foster was Thor, that Mjolnir kind of had a mind of its own,
yes.
and I totally had forgotten about that, and then they kind of touched on it in this issue, and then
Yep.
by of course with that cover it kind of gives away who the body really belongs to, right? And
So yeah, so there's several things going on, and let me go into it. So what I have up here is actually the second print for Thor number 21 that hasn't come out yet. But in the internal guts of Thor 21, um, it does reveal that yes, what was calling herself now the God of Hammers, Mjolnir, has kind of fused with Mangog. Right?
mhm.
Well, how did this happen? Well, what I really want to get down to is where Jason Aaron and Al Ewing and Donny Cates are going with this because this is a fuse of all their different freaking ideas that they've got, right? So you remember this guy, freaking Thanos, right?
How can
And
you forget
Infinity
Thanos?
Stones, right? No, this this is really where they're driving back to. They're going back to this point, right? So what we're talking about once again is the some of this stuff that happened in Thor number 20, right? People have been freaking pissed off because I'm saying, uh, I get it. Say this is the first appearance of this character, but it's not really. There's other stuff going on, right? So people don't like what I'm about to say. Uh, this is where they're going to, right? The eventuality of what happened in Thor number 6. Thor had a dream that this was going to happen. That uh, Thanos is going to have Mjolnir in his hands, and is going to be infused with these Infinity Stones, right?
Hmm.
Well, how does he get to that, or what brings about that? I'm not going to be able to go into all that, but I can bring up the connections in between Mjolnir and the Infinity Stones, right?
Are all those like Marvel zombies behind him too?
It looks like it, right?
Yeah.
Right? Or something brought back from the dead. So there's an interesting connection to all that as well. So the another piece that was in Thor number 20 is uh, Odin talks about where Mjolnir comes from, right? And then at the end of him talking about the forging of Mjolnir, um, which is what happened was these doors, Odin actually went to help out the doors, and at the end of the freaking war, in which the Odin held out the door, they gave him a piece of uru. Odin goes back to the doors with the piece of uru and says, "Hey, I need you to forge this into like a freaking hammer." When he actually gave it to the doors, this was after he actually had a fight with a entity called the Tempest, right? And apparently, Uru has the ability to consume the soul or being of an entity, right? But in number 20, he kind of skips on that, but eventually he talks about, and then born from entropy and eternity. Now, inside the Marvel universe, entropy and entity, they're not just not words, they're actual cosmic entities, right?
Hmm.
So, inside the MCU, they've been flashing these things, right? Every once in a while, right? Especially the first time they actually showed it was during the Guardians of the Galaxy at the Collector's House, and he starts talking about these things, right? So the Infinity Stones are what's in the middle, like different freaking colors, right? And he talks about
Yeah.
how these cosmic entities actually made the Infinity Stones, right? So see, so top left, that is death. That's the thing that Thanos has always been in love with and has tried to impress. Bottom left is eternity, right? Top right is entropy, his son, right? And then bottom right is infinity, his eternity's daughter, right? So the interesting thing about death is that inside of her hand, as they're kind of spinning this mold, that's what's in the middle. That's a mold, is that there is a star, right? And we know for a fact that in order to mold Uru, you gotta have some type of star or the energy from a star to freaking mold it. On the top right with entropy, if you look all around him, he's got these things of like wind. It looks like these gushes of wind,
Hmm.
which is like the storm, which is like tempest, right? So tempest comes from entropy. And for those that don't know what entropy means, entropy is like the closing of everything. That's like shutting it down. So whereas the Big Bang is the expansion, entropy is it coming back together and just freaking shutting down and freaking ending it. So entropy most likely sent the tempest to end all things, right? It's a little closer look at entropy. And then there's the daughter, Infinity.
That's fantastic artwork, by the way.
It is. This is a closer up look at Tempest. The first time we ever saw the Tempest. Now the character that we're kind of involved with when it comes to Thor number 21 is Mangog, right? Mangog was this unstoppable creature. Like no one god can stop it by himself, right? You
Right.
either gotta have Odin and Thor or Mighty Thor or whatever, but you can't just freaking defeat him by himself. He's a moving man thing, right? So at some point during the Mighty Thor run, which is with Jane Foster with Thor, no, Mangog is just running through all the Asgardians. He killed War Thor. He's freaking jacking up main Thor and Odin until Mighty Thor thinks about it. And what she does is she chains him up, and then she ties the end of that chain to Mjolnir, and then she pitches Thor that Mjolnir into the sun. Well,
Hmm.
that sun is Tempest, right? Uh, and then after that, we don't see Mjolnir anymore. Mjolnir is freaking gone, right? Now, the thing about pitching Mjolnir into the sun and getting rid of it is that without the hammer, she is just Jane Foster, and at the time, she actually had cancer. So without that, no, she was going to die. So and this was in number 705. She actually freaking dies, and it's a whole big thing. Now I don't think I have this slide here. Oh, here we go. So the interesting thing is Thor, he's very emotional and upset. So he asked Tempest, he looks at Tempest and says, "Hey Tempest, can you help me out? I don't want her to die." So the Tempest actually shoots him with these thunderbolts, and then he directs the thunderbolts back in the Jane Foster, right? Which
Yeah.
means now that she's back alive, she actually has some of the power infused from the Tempest, but not just the Tempest, Mangog, right? So that's something that we got to keep an eye on. Now, later on, after all that stuff is happening, she goes to Earth, but then she goes for a treatment, and it turns out now she doesn't have it anymore. But then she comes back to Asgard just to talk to Thor and everything, and she's like, "Hey, man, freaking!" She gives him a pet talk. She's like, "Look, there's got to be a Thor. You got to be the Thor. There's always got to be a Thor." And then he's like, "I don't know if I can do it without the hammer." Then she takes this little piece of freaking rock, and she hands it to him, and it turns out that it's Uru, right?
Hmm.
And she goes, "Hey, just remember, just got to be Thor, always got to be Thor." Now, here's the crazy thing about it. She says that she found it on the moon after she woke up from being alive, which is a dang gone lie because she pitched Mjolnir
Into the sun.
into the sun. So
Yeah.
there's no way there's gonna be a piece of. So we don't know where this thing comes from, other than here's the deal. Once again, Tempest shot a electric bolt into Thor, which went into Jane. So that's where that thing comes from. This is already a piece of Tempest and Mangog that he's holding right there, right? So yeah, that's where he shot her. And it was kind of interesting because after that, things get kind of weird. The way she was referring to him, because hey, she knows him as Thor, and that's how she's supposed to talk to him in a first person. But she's after that, she was calling him like Odinson for some freaking reason. So keep an eye out for that. I also want to keep wanted to annotate. You see that shirt that she's wearing?
Yeah. Straight out
Yeah,
of
the straight out
chemo.
content. Yeah, just keep an eye on that one, right? So in the beginning, so there's this. I forget which run this was from. I think it was from like Thor God of Thunder number 13. It was just a weird freaking one off where it was getting ready to start the War of the Realms, and it's got this little saying that says, "Hey, in the beginning there was darkness, and then from the south came fire, and from the north cold and mist, and where the two forces met, in the yawning void, life was born." And I do wanted to bring that up because this is the north, which is the cold and mist, and then from the south that would be your fire because he's got the little forge right there. So that's what they're talking about. And that was interesting because later on in War of the Realms number 6, which is the last episode, the last issue of that whole event, they're getting slogged down, they're getting beat up by the freaking elves. Um, and the doors and the elves are just sitting by, and there's this big sound, and then they look up, and then one of the elves, I think that's what you call them, elves, says, "Hey, fire and ice.
Hmm.
In the beginning, there was only darkness, and then from the south came. So he basically says the same thing from this. So he brings it up again, right? And then right after that, he says, "Well, what is the?" And he said, "Hey, do you know what that means?" He's like, "I don't know. They were getting ready to burn." He said, "No. What that means is something is getting ready to be created, right?" And then from there, Tempest actually sends Thor a new hammer, right? So th- th- once again, it's Mjolnir, but it's a new Mjolnir, right? It's not the
Hmm.
same. It's not the same Mjolnir, right? And where did the Tempest get the Uru to do that? Well, remember the piece of Uru that Jane gave to him? Well, he kept it on a necklace around his neck. And then when he couldn't figure out how to win the War of the Realms, he actually went to Tempest. He went inside Tempest to suffer. He hung himself upside down in order to suffer, in order to gain knowledge, because that's something I guess that Thor and Odin do. They hang themselves, that they scratch out their eye, they kick, just to get knowledge, right? So apparently, Tempest whispers to him what he has to do. He says, "Okay, gotcha." He takes off the freaking necklace and then he throws it into Tempest, right? And that's where she got the medal for the new Thor, right? Or the new Mjolnir.
Hmm.
And then after that, I forget which issue this was. I'm sorry, um, but he becomes aware that now Mjolnir is alive, right? It's not like he says, "Hey, you." He says, "Hey, you. I can feel some remnant of the god Tempest still roaring inside you. You, as before, you are not. You are no mere enchanted chunk of Uru. You are alive, just as sure as you've given life to me." So that means that hey, he understands that there's Tempest in there. That now Molinear is alive with something different. But what he didn't understand was, hey, it wasn't just Tempest that came out alive; it was Mangog. Um, so that's where we're at. So if people can track what's going on with that. Now, I told you to keep track of that shirt, right?
Yeah.
Notice how she's got the scarf, the little
Yep.
robe, the shirt, even the pants are the same. This is during War of the Realms. Now she has hair, which means it's several months after when she died.
Right.
Yeah, she's got the same scarf, the same uh
Yeah. Same shirt, same
same shirt,
pants. Yeah.
same pants, right? Which means something else is something funky is going on, right? I think Molinaire or Tempest have been doing something weird before then. I don't think I don't think that this is Jane.
Really.
Yeah, I don't think this is Jane Foster.
Hmm.
Or either
That's
that or
interesting.
yeah, or Tempest has taken over her body or something.
So do you think, well, she's running around as Valkyrie now? Do you think that she's got something to do with Mjolnir, and that maybe that he's Mjolnir has control over Jane at some point?
I don't know what's going on. But I will tell you one thing. In Mighty Thor number 10, there was an interesting panel where she's fighting off this group that had invaded some place, and let's see if I can find it real quick. Number 10, and she sends Molinear off, right, to fight. Like Molinear is fighting, and then she's fighting, and then Jane is fighting in another place. It's weird. And then she comes back, and then there's like these special agents that come to race Thor, come to arrest Thor for some freaking reason, which was weird, right? Like, oh, um, and then it gets even weirder because the hammer turns into Jane,
Yeah.
It's weird. Let's see. Let me see. It might be number 12 actually. Um, but yeah, where they're going with it is extremely weird.
Hmm.
I don't know why they went into it. Um, but so I do know that at some point that's what's supposed to happen was that whole Thanos with the Infinity Stones and everything. But it's been I don't know because you've got the whole Valkyrie mess going on, right?
Right.
How do you turn off the Valkyrie mess and go back to concentrating on this? That I don't know.
Interesting. Well, we'll have to figure that out at some point because there's a lot going on here that you know I tend to read forward. Like I always read like this issue with Thor, and then by the time I read the next issue with Thor, everything's history. I like it when you're bringing back up. It's like, hey, remember this? Remember that? I'm like, okay, yeah, now I remember.
Yeah.
So no, it's good stuff. But all right, so we're out of time today. So we're gonna wrap this up for the next couple of weeks, and then we will see you all again. Uh, maybe do a Valentine's Day episode.
Mm, nice.
All right. Lucas, very nice chatting with you. And for everyone out there, we will see you in 2 weeks.